Camera. Oh, the camera's over here.
No, it's
He's killing him. He's getting him.
Three beans in a pod, talking movies.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another Three Beans on a Pod episode. Today, we're going to be deep diving into A24 and their most recent stuff that was old that we like, stuff that was old that we don't like, and just how we feel like they're moving in the direction of whatever they're planning on moving on.
And asked the really important question is A24 kind of losing its relevancy? But that being said, the number one person we should ask of is A24 losing its relevancy is the only person here that's seen their most recent film, the one that's been lauded as one of the best films of 2025. Micah, was Marty Supreme good?
It was, in my opinion, out of all the movies in this past year, the funnest I've had in the theater. And so, like, I loved it. I brought up this idea for this podcast. Like, we should do A24 because of this movie that came out. I know the other two guys have not watched this movie yet. And I think if you haven't seen this movie, you should. And it's one of those things I think we talked about in another podcast of like going into a theater, not knowing anything about it is what also included into my experience in watching this movie, which made it that much better. And it was weird because I went to go see it. I think it was already a week or two past when it like debuted. And so I went to AMC, an AMC theater, and there were some people posted out outside the theater for Marty Supreme. They handed out some like QR codes or whatever. It was like, hey, if you're watching this movie, scan it. We'll give you like a $5 gift card or whatever if you like complete.
So they paid you
the
off.
questionnaire. Yeah, the questionnaire. And I don't know who they were. They didn't even say who they were with, but all it was like,
Micah got his identity stolen at Marty Supreme. They're like, just scan this, and what's the last four of your social, blood type, first, last name?
It was pretty interesting because it just asked like, what do you know about the movie, and then after is like, what do you think about the movie, and just like a bunch of stuff in between. I thought it was pretty cool. And then obviously going into the movie, knew nothing about it, and then within the first 5 minutes, it was like, what am I watching? Because I'm not sure if I want to spoil the. I just dropped a whole bunch of stuff. Spoil anything about the movie, but I will spoil the first 5 minutes of it.
He becomes Supreme.
No,
and his name is Marty.
It's a crazy scene where he's like working at a shoe shop, and his girl like comes in, yada yada. Some stuff happens. They make out. They eventually have sex, and then like the. What do you call it? It's like the pre-credits, where it's like some transitions and it just shows like
yeah.
It's
like the B-roll intro where you get the
yes. So they're doing that, but like all it is just like quite literally sperm swimming towards the egg. And so it was the weirdest thing. I was like, I thought this was a ping pong movie. Like, what are we doing?
He said, wrong balls.
We all got to start somewhere.
It ended up like, the whole movie just has you super anxious. And I told Jacob this the other week, trying to explain the feeling of the movie is if you ever watched The Office and you've ever seen the episode Scott's Tots, that's what the entire movie was, in the sense of like the feeling you had towards the movie. And so I'm like the guy who falls on the side. Like, I like that episode in The Office, but I know there's a lot of people that hate that episode.
Yeah.
So however you feel about it, that's how you're going to probably feel about this movie.
So what would you rate it?
Whatever I said, I think I told y'all, like, I think it's like a 9 out of 10 for me. If not, like,
that's
right,
crazy.
Like 8.9 or something.
Would you say it's the best film you saw in 2025?
I think we talked about this. What else came in 2025 before I say that?
The big ones that we liked were...
Superman's up there.
Superman came out that year, and then Sinners came out that year.
It's better than Sinners.
love
100%.
Sinners. I love Sinners.
I think it won't be above Superman because I love that movie. I'm looking up some movies real quick before I forget any. I mean, I think it's
Oh, Predator Badlands came out.
that was really
I
good. In
love
my
that movie.
opinion, I still love Marty Supreme better than that.
Yeah, it's fair.
I think it might
Really?
be my best movie of 2025.
There you
It's
go.
hard to say that. F1 came out. F1's really good.
Oh,
Weapons came
F1
out.
is really good.
Weapons is
I
really
didn't end up
good.
watching Weapons.
I think that was probably one
What
of the
else was
better films that came out.
Without trying to talk about like recency bias, I mean, I still think it's my favorite movie of 2025.
Hold on, Tron Ares came out.
It had the most
God.
expectations of 2025.
I'm looking at a lot of films that came out last year, and
Yeah. You didn't like Sinners?
there were a lot of good films that came out. I just
Did
don't
we
think
talk about Sinners?
we didn't talk
No,
about
we didn't.
Sinners. We're not doing this, or we're going to end up fighting about Sinners. I love that movie.
Mid.
Absolutely not. There's a reason it's been nominated for so many Oscars.
Oscars would beat anything.
Ooh, that new Frankenstein movie came out. Oh, that was good. I like that one. Anyway,
I still need to see
uh,
Yeah.
it was good. It was good. I liked it. But okay, so 9 out of 10, possibly the best film of 2025 for Micah. So we'll go to a stark contrast with Ryan. What's the last A24 movie you watched?
Ooh, so that's a loaded question because I actually went back and watched 3.
All of them.
Yeah, because I wanted to at least be able to stand on both feet when I say that I don't like the new A24 movies, and I feel like they all have gone downhill. And
Wow,
I
just
feel like
giving away right at the beginning here.
yeah, I mean, the last one that I saw, the most recent one that I saw, was actually good. That's why I have to preface with they've just kind of been going in the wrong direction up until this last movie, Eternity. I really liked it. I thought it was a really good movie. As far as being the most recent, because I think that came out after The Smashing Machine, and that was the second most new A24 movie that I saw. But Eternity was really good. I think it was well rounded. I think it was like well written. The pacing was good. The humor was great. The romance and storytelling was really good. I would give that one probably like an 8 out of 10, which is which is a pretty high rating for previous A24 movies, because going back to what I said earlier, I think the other day I watched 3 movies in one day just so I can knock them out and see. And I don't think any of those came close to being above a 5 out of 10. They were just so bad.
What three? What 3 movies?
I watched Y2K with um, Rachel Zegler. I watched Death of a Unicorn with Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd, and then I watched Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage.
Mm.
And Dream Scenario is there's no story. It's too artsy for its own good. You really can tell that they had no direction and they wanted to make something that was like visually abstract. And I was like, that's cool, but you're also not giving enough exposition to the story that you've put us in. So it's confusing. And my assumption is that if I go back and I look at it and I look it up, it's going to be, oh well, it's up to you. It's up to the audience interpretation. Okay, whatever. Um, Death of a Unicorn. Uh, it just it felt like this weird Gremlins movie. It wasn't horrible, but I also feel like it was just very fast paced. So I feel like the pacing was off in the sense that it just went really we got here really fast and then we get to the end really fast, and I feel like everything happened so fast that really nothing happened, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to an extent.
Yeah, and then Y2K was just bad. Like I can't even deep dive and like tell you how bad it was because it was just bad. I feel like the writing was bad. The only thing I liked about the movie was the kid. It's the little New Zealand kid, the big. He's in
Oh,
Deadpool 2, Hunt for the Wilder People. Let me
it
find his
was
name.
that was it, wasn't? I thought it was. My brain was telling me it was uh the guy from Spider-Man. I thought it was him. My brain was
No,
remembering it
no,
as
no.
him.
Oh,
Yeah, Julian Dennison is his name, and he's really good in the things that I've seen him in. Like if you ever watch Hunt for the Wilder People, great movie.
Yeah, I
That's a little
watched that.
off
It was good.
topic. So
Yeah.
good. But yeah, so A24 for me lately just has been letting me down. All aside from Eternity. Eternity was really good, and I'm
Okay.
glad it was good because I was actually excited to see that movie when I saw the preview. I was like, "Oh, this looks interesting," and it didn't let me down.
Okay. So you would say yes. You think A24 is kind of losing its relevancy?
Oh, 100%.
And Micah, you'd say no, it's still running strong.
it's it's still doing good. I mean, I think Ryan knows this more than anyone because you talked to me about it last of like them trying to push out a different type of movies. It's like
Hmm.
not as mainstream, and they're doing stuff different. So like, I don't really mind it. I mean, if they're failing, then that's fine. At least they're trying in certain ways, and I think you see it
I would
in
argue
the
that though.
you're seeing it in a broad aspect of like, yeah, they're missing some, but then like they come out with really good movies here and there, and that's good with me. If
Yeah, but I'm saying like here and there is few and far between
Okay.
because
Before we get into this, I gotta throw my stuff out there because this I'm sitting back here watching y'all about to jump in, and I wanna let it.
let me get
you should have a part go after Ryan's throat right here.
it.
I was like, oh, I'll let y'all go through it. But I'm gonna say
Say it.
I don't think they're going out of relevancy. I think what
Mm,
they're doing is they're finding where they're. I think they're finding their home as a production company for where they will probably live for the rest of like their mainstay as a production company. Um,
I hate that.
I,
I don't
I
want
don't
them to live there.
I
Pack up,
think
move.
that I think that they started off doing. I mean, they're a small independent, film company. So they started off with a bunch of independent films. They were giving everybody a shot. They were throwing money at the wall for anything to kind of like stick. Not in a bad way. I mean, like they were giving directors a chance to make these really cool off the wall movies and kind of cutting checks for movies. I didn't even
Yeah.
realize this until I was scrolling through their catalog. I always thought my first A24 film was like Ex Machina or Uncut Gems. But scrolling through their catalog, my first A24 film I watched years ago. It was a movie called Green Room
Hmm.
with Sir Patrick Stewart. Um, and um, I remember watching that movie as a kid and going like, "Wow, this is a really crazy like alternative style of a movie." It was really kind of
Mm.
out there, and I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I loved it. Um, and when I scroll through the catalog, they're just a company that takes a lot of risks. That's really all it is. It just seems like they give a lot of maybe old directors and some new directors a chance to kind of just tell their story with a budget that doesn't require them to sign away their soul to somebody like Paramount or whatever. Um, so we get really good films out of that, like you know what y'all were just talking about. I'm thinking like Hereditary and things like that. That film
Hmm.
is, one of like the landmark staples of the last couple of years. I'd say it's probably one of the best horror movies that come out in the last 10 years. It's
Hmm.
honestly one of those horror movies that I watched that I won't watch it again. It was good and I'll recommend it to people, but I won't sit down and rewatch it again. Just because the movie kind of freaked me out, especially towards the end. It kind of like left me in a moment where I was like, I don't know if I want to ruin it by going back to rewatch it and it not being as terrifying as I remember it the first time around.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
you got movies like The Witch and things like that. I think you get those really good hits that are popular with everybody, and then you've got these sleeper hits that are kind of like they're popular with some people, and they
Mhm.
kind of land with their own audiences, maybe they don't land. I think that's why we get crazy cool horrors that are kind of subversive but also like mind bending. Then we get really stupid, terrible comedy like Y2K because I watched that recently. I'm with Ryan. I watched Death of a Unicorn, Y2K, and what was the last one I ever watched? I don't even remember. That's how forgettable it must have been because I don't even remember what it was.
Hmm.
But those are the movies
Was
that
it
I watched
Heretic?
recently. Oh, I did. It was The Heretic. Okay, it
Yeah.
wasn't that bad. I felt like while I was watching The Heretic, we were all, me and everybody else sitting on the couch was trying to figure out where the movie was going because it felt like they were building towards something really big and then they just
Hmm.
didn't.
Yeah.
And it kind of just fell off. It kind of just petered out towards the end.
Yeah.
But with that being said, the main actor, I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. The guy that's the villain,
Hugh
he was
Grant.
like Hugh Grant. He's like
Hmm.
normally that guy that's supposed to be the charmer. He's always been the ladies' man kind of character. And seeing him be the villain was really cool. So I still like the movie. I'd give that movie like a solid 6 or 7. But don't. I
No,
will
I
do.
agree with you.
I
I
will do
think that
great
that one
violence
was a
upon you
good one.
both.
But like, I guess my pushback, I get what you're saying, and I agree. I think that
I think they are risking. I think they are risking losing relevancy because if you look at the last year, they popped out a ton of movies. Like a lot of movies dropped in 2025. I was actually kind of shocked. Like I can scroll
Yeah.
and rocket these off real quick. It is
Mhm.
they did Parthenope, On Becoming a Guinea Fowl, Opus, Death of a Unicorn, Warfare, The Legend of Ochi, Friendship, Bring Her Back, Materialist, Sorry Baby, Eddington, Architecton, Highest to Lowest, Niza 2, The Smashing Machine, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, Eternity, and Marty Supreme. So they had all those movies drop in 2025, and the best one was Marty Supreme because everybody loves that movie. Like it is just being well liked, even by Micah. Um, and that's pretty much it. Like the Smashing Machine is popular because everybody was like, "Oh, it's The Rock's like first foray into serious drama," and then the other one I would say that people know is what? What was it? Maybe Highest to Lowest because it had Denzel in it. It was an Apple TV movie.
Mm.
I heard it was
Yeah.
good. Heard it was good. You know, we have a friend at work that really highly recommends it. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard good things. But besides that, all the rest of the movies just kind of came out, dropped, did whatever they did, and nobody raved about them. So I think that
Warfare
might
was up
make them
there, but like uh, I felt like
But I also
Warfare was like up there because it was like also like super like
gritty.
advertised to be good.
Oh,
Mhm.
Like I think the rating was really good, and I'm not sure if it was like everyone perceived it that way. I just know like advertising was pretty strong for Warfare when it came out too.
Mhm.
That's another movie
Well, that and
I
I
agree
feel
that
like
was
I
pretty
feel
good.
like they went the route of they did a lot of social media stuff. So with Warfare, I mean, you're getting clips and stuff like that from the movie that were like the hype up scene where they're listening to that song and they're all dancing in the barracks. Um, that scene was like heavily on TikTok and Instagram
Yeah.
Reels, and like it's being thrown at you, and then people are like, "Oh, what movie is this from?" And they're like, "Oh, it's from a movie called Warfare. It doesn't come out for another couple months." And so a lot of that traction was on social media, and that's where I feel like it was frustrating because like you're watching these snippets and it's like, "Oh my gosh, this movie looks good. It looks like it's going to be a really good movie." And then you go and you watch it and it's kind of just like it's very dry. Um, I'll agree. Were there some really good parts in it?
I get that.
Sure. I really like Will Porter. So seeing Will Porter and Joseph Quinn and like all these other people who are in the movie, I think they all had really good acting dynamic together. But I just feel like it's dry, and it was just very. We're in one room the entire movie. We're watching what's happening. Whereas you get other movies like Lone Survivor and what is it, 13 Hours, like these
oh, I
based on
love that
true
movie.
story war movies
13
that
Hours is
that
really good.
just kind of go and they tell more story. And like, yeah, you could say, oh, it's based on a true story and it's dry and you don't like it. No, why were these true story movies successful? because they showed you what the plot, they showed you the peak, and then they showed you the aftermath. Warfare is like, hey, here's the peak, and the movie's over. Once everything starts getting going and getting good, and people start dying, and people start like it's blowing up out of proportion and becoming way too much for people to handle, they're
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, by the way, movie's over. And it's like, okay, literally, if you watch the end of that movie, I was sitting there thinking that there was going to be another scene coming up because it didn't feel like the end of a movie. It felt like the transition into the end of the movie where you get the epilogue and get to see what happens in the aftermath. But then they were just like, no, that's it. That's all we had for you. Ran out of money. That's all that was in the
I, th-
budget.
I think I get it now. I think that's why you just hate A24 because like a lot of movies that they do kind of feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, I don't hate it because like there's like movies. It's like that's to a point. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got to do the beginning, the middle, and then the end. You got to like end it. And like I think with A24, when it comes to them like stepping outside the molds of how movies have been done and what makes movies hits and stuff like that when it comes to writing is like sometimes you do have it they just like end, right? And for me like it's kind of like a refresher because like not a lot of movies do that, so like I kind of like it in that sort of sense. And when it comes to Warfare, it being like a true story is like I kind of like it. It's very different from the movies you just named of 13 Hours, Lone Survivor. It's just like, to me, it just feels raw. And that's why I like the movie.
I can see what you're saying, and I can respect that. And like, I can see why there's a draw for that because when people say like, "Oh, art imitates life," and having a movie that doesn't feel complete makes you feel as though the story didn't end. It's still going because they didn't die and all this other stuff. I just feel like if you're kind of adapting it, there should be a resolve. But I say that loosely because I feel like there are some movies that can get away with that. But again, the reason I don't think it worked with Warfare is because it was very dry. I think that there's a lot of movies that can give you this, you know, ending that feels unresolved, but still be a good movie. Like, for example, The Gray. I like The Gray. The
I
ending is
love The Gray.
ambiguous,
That's not an
but
A24 film, is it?
it's not an A24.
Oh,
No,
I
But
was just saying.
but that's what I'm saying is like you watch this whole thing and then right when we get to the point where you feel like there should be more, there's not. And it's ambiguous. You don't know if he lives, you don't know if he dies, and you're doing this kind of dance around.
He's
But
dead.
I like that. So I'm not saying that I don't like everything that does that, or sorry, that I don't like everything that does that. I just feel like Warfare, because they did that and had such a dry movie, that that's why I didn't end up liking it. Because you can't like, for me personally, you can't just like do this 2 hour long movie that's just a whole lot of nothing and then say, oh well, here's the ending and it's kind of open to the audience when you haven't given me anything.
I
We don't
disagree.
know
It's
what
just like, it's so,
first.
in my opinion, it's like, it's raw. And like, all the people are like young. And I think that's a very good depiction of how like most, especially like the movies you like proclaimed. And like, it's different in every story. But like, I mean, a lot of people who go to war are young people. Like, not very many of them are old and super experienced and just, like stuff messes up. These are young people, and I see like stuff hits the fan, and it's like it's just for me. Like that's why I liked it most. It's very different than I think a lot of like war movies because like a lot of war movies just make it out as like there's you prevail, right? And I think this was very different in that sense, and that's why I liked it as much as I
I've never,
did.
I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really speak to it.
Mhm.
I haven't heard
No,
anything
and that's just
bad.
like a one-off. Yeah, that's just a one-off example of like I'm just not a huge fan of the
But
direction that they take with. a lot
I
of their
mean, in
movies.
your defense, like, there's this one, I liked it, and then the other movie that we talked about that I didn't know was A24 was Enemy.
Mhm.
I hated that movie. I'm
Yeah,
not sure we talked about it. I thought that was the worst movie I've ever watched in my entire life, and that's kinda
Uh,
the same thing, but it's like,
yeah,
it just
but
had
I
an
think
ending that just made no sense to me, and I'm like, "This could be the
mhm.
worst movie I've ever seen."
while I while y'all were talking about warfare, I decided and I think I'm gonna have to disagree with Ryan and saying like because I said they're trying to find their home. I think they kind of
Surprise,
know it.
surprise.
I know, right? Yeah, I'm here to tell you that every A24 film's amazing. 10 out of 10. Ryan's
11 out
wrong.
of 10.
11 out of 10. I actually broke the scale going so high. No, the reason why I say that is isn't because Ryan's wrong necessarily. It's just that I think the studio just wants to green light films that are cheaper. And they want to give people a chance to make films that don't require a giant box office budget. I literally, added up every single because there's only a couple, obviously to do here, but I added up all the budgets of every single A24 film that came out in 2025, and it was $142 million. That's for every single one of those movies. Some of those movies were made for hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Which is nothing compared to what
Yeah.
any major Hollywood film is cranking out. Now, to be fair, I had to know. I'm like, okay, well, Marty Supreme is the best film of 2025 for Micah. It's the best rated film of 2025 for A24. It was made for $60 million. So it's the most expensive film they made this year, and they made $116 million. Um, I can't really think of major marketing pushes that they do on their movies. Um, I think that they do some like crazy trailers here and there, but I don't see like giant billboards saying "Go see Marty Supreme" and giant like ads running on television and things like that, or on YouTube telling you "Go
Did you
watch Marty
did you
Supreme."
see any of the PR for Marty Supreme?
No, I only saw the one
It
trailer.
was a lot. I mean, he even got permission to dance on top of the Sphere in Las
He
Vegas.
did, yeah. This one
He also created Marty Supreme jackets and got like all these well-known athletes to wear the Marty Supreme jackets in preparation for them. They spent so much money on.
I don't would you I don't know if I could say that they spend as much money as any other major studio would. So like
Well, yeah,
Jurassic
yeah, but like
like
for an A24,
yeah, maybe for an A24 film, but I would be surprised to say that do you think they spent $60 million worth of advertisement on that movie?
I don't know.
Because on
Run the
average, you
numbers.
with most like high profile movies by major studios, they double their budget because they spend almost as much of the film on advertisement. So they spend like $250 million on advertisement, and then they do another $250 million for the
So
budget of the film.
they spent 90 million on okay, no, hold on, pause.
I was
Not
about to
90
say,
million.
there's no way they spent more on
Um,
advertisement.
where is it? So about 20 million on marketing.
Oh, a third of the budget on marketing, and then so that means they spend 80 to 90 million and they made 120 back, so they made their money back and then some. I mean, that's all they need to justify the next couple 10 million and $8 million movies they're going to make. That's kind of just what they want to do. They just want to make art house movies, which I'm totally fine with. And every once in a while, a couple of art house films are a little bit more expensive and they kind of squeak into the mainstream and people want to go see them. I think that's kind of what A24 is. I think that's pretty much where they're going to live for the rest of their career, which is fine. I don't mind that.
I do because they're just not making good movies.
But
Because here's my thing. Here's the thing too. You get it.
they
You get
can't all
a.
be Talk to Me. They can't all be Hereditary. They can't all be Smashing Machine.
Oh, don't even get me started on that. Smashing Machine is probably the second worst A24 movie I've seen.
I can't.
For like the
second
sports thing,
worst?
I
yeah.
can't believe that. I can't believe it's that bad.
Oh, it
There's
is
no
no,
way.
actually, it's well, because the first worst is Y2K. Y2K was just atrocious.
It wasn't
Um,
that bad.
but the Smashing Machine, it was bad. I mean,
It,
compared to
oh, it
like
was
some of the good
bad.
stuff that they made, Smashing Machine was just awful. I don't like. I didn't want to get started on that because I'll talk for like way too long on that
You
movie.
get you get.
But basically my main gripe with that movie is there was no clear art direction in the sense of the story was all over the place. There was no clear direction you could tell with The Rock. I think that The Rock tried to be Mark Kerr, um, but that doesn't happen until the middle of the movie. So if they shot this movie out of order, then maybe in the beginning they film the middle, and that's why he tries to do the Mark Kerr voice, and then it just kind of disappears throughout the rest of the movie. The shots were very inconsistent. The story is supposed to be about him and drug recovery into his fighting days, and they just kind of breeze over his recovery and treatment and that whole story to focus on the girlfriend and then focus on the friend, and then you get this power battle in the middle, or not the middle, um like the end of the second act, beginning of the third. There's this power battle of, wait, are we a Mark Kerr movie or are we Mark Kerr's best friends movie? And then they try and do a fake out, and you end up in a scenario where they're trying to emulate warriors, but they do it so bad that like it just didn't end well.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about the movie, but as a studio, what would you want them to do?
I think personally, I don't think it was a, because they're just a production house. They just greenlit it, they finance it, they do all that.
Yeah,
I think that the director ruined that movie, but it's under the A24 umbrella.
no, I
And
know. I'm not saying like fix the movie. What I'm saying is right now, tomorrow, they say, Brian, you are king of A24. You are now running this film production company, right? And you get to
mhm.
make any change to the film production company and how it manages its choice of films and what we greenlight, what we spend money on. Like, what are you changing? What's the big thing that what are you going to do to make it stay relevant and hip with the kids?
Truthfully, I think that they shouldn't be greenlighting as many movies as they are. I think that they need to sit down and say, okay, well, these movies work. Let's find more movies within this niche of, like, if we're gonna do horror, let's find stuff like Hereditary, Midsummer, Talk to Me, uh, Bring Her Back. Find that, and then go after those directors. Then you say, oh, well, I want to do romance. Okay, well, let's do some romance. Let's get some people who are associated with like the successful ones, and let's drive into that direction. Because then you look at the contrast of Eternity versus We Live in Time. We Live in Time was another romance movie that they tried to do, and it was awful. It was Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield, and she has terminal cancer, and like that's the whole story. But like he's supposed to be a main character, and they just kind of write him in a way that makes him feel like a background character who's not supposed to be associated with the story. And then they try and do all this stuff and like hammer in these inconsistencies, and like if you look at it, you're like, this is a love story, question mark. um it was very whatever. So I'm saying, like, find what works, stop greenlighting so many projects, and focus on the ones that may be good, and then push those out. That's what I would do. I think right now they're just greenlighting too many projects, and they're the only saving grace for them is that they're attaching well-known actors to it. So like, I don't care if you make a random look, prime example, Talk to Me doesn't have any well-known actors, and it was made by a bunch of guys who, or by the two brothers that used to do YouTube, and they get their movie picked up, they do it. It had such a good story that nobody cares who the actors are. Nobody cares that they're no-name actors. then you get all the other stuff in A24 where you get, okay, that's a well-known name actor. That's his whatever. That's going to be our draw. And then you go and you watch the movie and you're like, well, this movie's not that great. The story kind of sucks. And so I
Yeah.
think that they are sacrificing right now for the past, I'd say, 2 years. So 2024 to 2025. I think they're sacrificing their story to bring artists in as the draw and then do some like artsy crap that doesn't work. And that's just my personal opinion. And I've seen a lot of A24 movies because I'm giving them a chance because there are some diamonds in the rough where I'm like, oh, that's a really good movie. But like they're few and far between. And then you watch it and you're like, this just doesn't feel like it was done well. Whether it's the story, whether it's the pacing, whether it's the acting or the ending or whatever, I just feel like they're doing too much. And you fall into this thing where look at Star Wars, look at Marvel. What did they do to readjust? They were pumping out so much and people hated it and it was crap and it was garbage. And then they said, you know what? You're right. Maybe let's take some time and let's do quality over quantity. I think right now they're doing quantity over quality. And that's why we're in this little shift and flow of they're just putting out a bunch of stuff to see what sticks.
What do you think, Micah?
I disagree with that because, like, I think with some of these other production companies, it's like it's different because some of these other ones, like, the main issue is just them hammering these IPs and trying to squeeze as much as they can out of these IPs to get like because they know it works. So let's just keep running the clock on, Marvel, all these characters or whatever it is, and I mean we talked about this before we started recording. I mean, there's going to be like another Toy Story 5 and whatever. So it's like you don't really
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of people taking a lot of chances on just new movies with new storylines and these, like you said, like you even said, like you don't like the pacing. Well, like these movies have a different type of pacing that we've ever seen before, and so it's just like it's so different, and that's why I like it. Is like, in my opinion, like just keep
Yeah.
taking chances on all these different movies.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I hear
it's
that's
you.
so
what
different than
I'm
any
saying
other
is,
production company.
yeah, what I'm saying is I feel like there's a lot more of their stuff that performs well when they're not just tying it to some well-known name just to bring people in. Every single one of these that's highlighted with, oh, this so and so is in it, just becomes a horrible movie. Like, okay, Midsummer. Nobody knew about Florence Pugh until Midsummer. So she was like a not so well known name. They made a horror movie, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. This is very weird. It's kind of okay. That works. Then she started taking off. So then you go again and you look at Talk to Me. Well, now because that movie performed so well with a bunch of no name actors, they're doing it again. They're making another movie with those brothers, and then you just get a bunch of other. That's what I'm saying. I think that the movies where they're focused on the story and not so much the draw of people, that's where they thrive, and that's what I'm saying that they need to get back to. I don't. I'm not saying that the artsy stuff is per se bad in the sense of like just that is horrible, but it's you're not doing it well with the movies with larger actors. And I say that because I love Tim Robinson. I'll watch anything Tim Robinson right now. And Friendship was the worst comedy that I've ever seen because it's supposed to be like this buddy comedy, and
No,
that's what they
you
hyped
watched
it
Y2K.
up. Well, no, no, no. I'm talking
I know,
buddy
I
comedy.
know, I know, I know. I'm just being
Yeah,
a dick.
but you get Paul Rudd and you get Tim Robinson, who Paul Rudd's not like a great standalone, but he is a good ensemble. Like he's a good addition. Like I think that he works well with other people. Tim Robinson, funny. If you gave me a movie of just Tim Robinson, I'd watch it. But the fact that they ruined that was just like for me, that's why I have a gripe with them is that like they're putting out so much that we're getting lost in that. And now, you know what I mean? Now we're losing those good movies because there's just so much piled on.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I hear what what Mike is saying. I'm trying to see who's convincing.
But, like, even then, what you're saying is, like, even when you're, like, bringing in these,
I'm
like,
the audience
well-known
surrogate here.
with, like, these well-known actors, like, some of these actors are doing something they've never done before, and, like,
True.
switching
That's not.
genres with how they
That's not
like,
necessarily true. That is not
but
necessarily true.
they're do
No, you got to give them that. There are actors that are venturing into areas of film that they've never been in, be it because they've never been given a shot in those by major studios, or because their career was in a place where they wouldn't get greenlit and those types of things. I mean, look at Brendan
exactly, it
Fraser because he was in The Whale. Brendan Fraser won his Oscar and got back in the limelight because of an A24 film.
I also kinda like it. I mean, Jacob, I think you said you liked it too with, Uncut Gems. I mean, you
Oh, I
literally have
love Uncut Gems.
Adam Sandler doing a movie he's really never done before.
Hmm.
I thought that was a great movie,
Yeah,
and so it's like
but
there's I
Micah,
it
I also to push against you though a little bit because what Ryan was saying is accurate though too, which is they're not necessarily he's not saying he wants them to hammer out IPs, like say like, oh, well, Talk to Me worked. Let's make Talk to Me 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What he's saying is Talk to Me worked because we had a good story by a good group of writers and we pushed that and that movie was successful. But unfortunately, we risk burying a Talk to Me by putting 16 Y2Ks, Death of a Unicorns, and other things on top of it in the same month or same year. So what he's saying is when he's saying their quantity is too high, that's what if I'm understanding you correctly, Ryan, you can
Yeah,
tell me if
that's
I'm
100%.
bullshitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that he's right about that? Do you think the quantity is driving up? Shut up. You're over here to my right, by the way. That's why I'm pointing this direction. You could be over here or up here on the actual video. I have no idea. But do you think that the quantity of the films is affecting maybe the brand of A24 to the point where it could be at the detriment to some of the better films that are released?
for me, no, because like, and I'm different.
It's valid,
And the only reason I'm different is because like, just because an A24 makes a movie doesn't mean I'm gonna go see it. So
right?
Yeah.
it's like that's why, like, I'll say no to that because like, I'm only gonna go see movies that, like, I have interest in it. So just because they made so ever many doesn't mean I'm gonna watch all of them, right?
Hmm.
And just because I see
Well,
a good
and
movie, to me, it doesn't feel buried because I'm not watching all of them.
Yeah.
so that's the problem though. That's what I'm saying is you're saying, okay, I'm not necessarily watching everything. Neither am I. But there are there's a lot of stuff that they do to draw you in. So they'll tell you, okay, here's a big name actor. Here's the previews, here's the trailers. Dream Scenario looked pretty good. I think the concept was really good. You go and watch the movie, it's a whole lot of nothing for an hour and a half. There's no story, there's no direction, there's no resolution. And then okay, so I'm gonna spoil it. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it. Micah,
No.
you said at the end of Enemy he turns into a spider, right?
Oh,
Okay,
that's the
at the end.
Spider movie.
No, 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 no.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
Enemy
okay.
with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
But
talking about. Enemy.
Yeah.
That's the Spider movie. I remember
Yes.
you
yes,
telling me about that, and when you told me that, I was like, I'm never gonna watch this movie. I don't even want to watch it just to see the shitty ending. I'm like, I'm just not gonna watch it.
so that's
Every time I say, real quick, every time I say that movie and I explain what happens, they're like, "That can't be the movie." I'm like, "It is." Like, it's quite literally what happens in the movie.
yeah.
It's
No, okay. So as much as you don't like that one, right? He turns into a spider. That's the end. Dream Scenario. Zero story. There's nothing that happens for like an hour and a half. How does the movie end? He's in front of his wife. They're slow dancing in the middle of the street, and then he just starts floating into the air. That's the end. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is stupid.
but
But
like, what are we
you
talking
spent
about? Like,
exactly. So the whole movie is based around Nicolas Cage, but the way that they presented the movie in the trailers is that he is a professor at a university and he learns how to dream walk. So he's going into people's dreams on purpose, right? Wrong. That's the trailers. in the movie, he's just in people's dreams, but it's not him doing it, and we don't know how it's happening. We don't know who's doing it. He's not doing it. And then every single one of those dream people that he's in begins to become a nightmare, but they don't show you it. And then they just insinuate it. And then at the very end, they go from loving him to hating him, but there's no story in between because we don't know how we got there.
I don't know how to like frame my point of view about like all of this because like to me it's just another like it's just a bad movie and like I don't think that like refrains from like them, it's
Yeah,
like, oh, Nicolas Cage like bringing him in is like whoever they're gonna use is still gonna be a bad movie.
yeah.
That's what
Here,
I'm saying. But
uh,
that's
I
the point I'm
don't,
trying to make
but
is
what
that
I'm
they're
saying is
just
like I don't think it
throwing.
brings down all the good movies they've done.
yeah.
How many good movies can you name from A24? They
I actually
have
pull up the
they
list and it's
have
actually
hold
a
on, they
pretty
have
good list.
190 movies. How many can you name that you actually liked?
I feel like a pretty decent amount.
Out of 190 movies. You hated Enemy. There's a couple
Should,
other that I heard you say that you didn't like.
should we go down the list?
No, we're not going down 190
That's what like
movies.
how
But
many
that's what I'm saying.
movies
Okay,
how
at
So
many
least
here's
movies
name
do we
okay.
have
5.
to
So,
At
list?
so
least name
hold on.
5 that you liked.
Okay, there you go. That's fine. That should be easy. I
5
could do it.
easy.
I could do it right now.
Yeah.
Do you want me or Micah to do it?
Micah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, there's Marty Supreme, there's Midsummer, there's Talk to Me, there's Mid 90s,
You didn't watch Talk to
there's
Me.
yeah, I did.
Did you?
Yeah, you convinced me to watch it. I watched it.
Oh, I did. You didn't tell me that. I remember telling
Yeah.
you, "Hey, you should watch Talk to Me." He was like, "I'm not watching that movie
It took me
ever."
3 times to watch it, but I watched it. It was good.
It's a good movie. It's a good movie.
It was a good movie. I'm at 4. Uncut Gems.
Okay, I'll give it to you. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's
The
just
Iron
5.
Claw,
My thing is
That was
this.
good.
Warfare,
That's just
Past
5.
Lives,
Civil War.
Civil War,
What are we at right now?
everything,
10?
everywhere, all at once.
X. Maxine.
X. I watched X.
I didn't watch X. I didn't watch Maxine either.
Yeah, it's a
But
sequel to X. I mean, you wouldn't watch it
all
if you didn't
that's
watch X.
well, it's a trilogy. There's X,
I
Maxine,
didn't
and
know that.
Pearl. They're
I watched
all
it. Yeah,
in
I
the
haven't watched
shared
it
The
yet.
Disaster Artist.
Disaster Artist.
Disaster Artist was great. But that's what I'm saying. 190
The Whale.
movies.
Moonlight.
190 movies.
And they won a lot of Oscars too. But here's the thing: you can't look at a pantheon of movies that extends all the way back to 2013. That's 13 years worth of movies that they've been greenlighting, and then just say like, oh, well, out of 190, you've only got 5 or 6 that I
No,
actually
and that's
think.
the thing. That's the thing. As I said earlier, I said in the past 2 years, 2024 and 2025, they were just throwing movies out at everybody.
Yeah, but here's where I'm going to. So here's where I get pulled over to Micah's side, and this is where I kind of agree with him more than I agree with you, Ryan, because I do understand where you're coming from, and I will say this: I like some artsy movies that are very
I'll agree. Yeah.
cinematic and well done, and take a time to breathe. I really appreciate. So I want to say it's God. I could be wrong, and it's not like anybody's gonna like flame me in the comments section or anything like that. So go Google check me after this. Any viewer that cares to do so, but I think it was Seven Samurai. But so that's an older movie. It's black and white. It's made by a Japanese film director that is like the king of samurai filmmaking. He has a scene that leads up to the final battle of his samurai epic, right? And they have an artsy. The whole movie is very well shot and it's very artsy. But what happens is at one point in time in the movie, it just stops to show you a rainstorm going over the village, and it doesn't show you anything else. It's literally just taking time to show you rain falling on the village. And you could sit there and go like, why is it wasting my time? I'm just watching a village. Aren't we on our way to the final fight? But no, it's taking its time to show you what's at risk if they fail. like this village is important to the plot. It's
Mhm.
important to the characters, and it's supposed to just show you like what everybody's fighting for, right? Um, and it doesn't say anything. They just show you visually. I like artsy movies. I like it when they do things like that, but I also hate them. Like Mr. Nobody, what's his name? We just talked about him. He was in Tron recently. I forgot his name already. Um,
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. I remember watching that movie in college. Around a bunch of other college students. We were all under the influence, and I hated that movie. That movie was so pretentious. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was self-aggrandizing. I just at the very end of it, I was just like, "Why am I watching this?" I had that feeling that you probably had with the spider scene with that movie at the end. By the time that movie ended, I was like, "This is a freaking terrible movie. I hate it. I don't ever want to watch it again." It's a waste of my time. With all that being said, I will suffer a billion Mr. Nobodies or a billion enemies, I don't care, to get a whale or to get One Talk to Me or to get any of these other films, Hereditary, a Heretic, any of these films greenlit because I like a studio that's giving people a chance to make movies. I don't think that the movie industry should be as walled off and boxed off as it is
I agree.
already. And I think that this studio gives people a platform to try and live their dream. You know, I'm scrolling through and I'm looking at every single different writer director, and almost every film it's a different writer director. And I'm going like, look, these are a bunch of people that are getting their chance. If they make a good movie, then guess what? They get picked up, they win an Oscar, they win an award, and they get to go on and they get to become a big actor or director or a big writer. You know, they'll get to make more good movies. Other studios will go like, that guy that made Smashing Machine, he really knows how to write his shit. Let's put him in. Let's see if he could write a couple other movies. I'm just using an example. So I really like A24 for that, and that's why I don't think they're losing any relevancy. I think they're exactly where they want to be. They're making enough good movies to always stay in the public mind, well, so they can infinitely greenlight movies by any upcoming director writer and give other actors opportunities to in roles that they might not necessarily get because no big studio wants to take a risk like that. And I like that. I think it opens up the space.
So what I'm
Why
saying
would
is,
why wouldn't you want that, Ryan?
I'm I'm not
Like,
saying I'm not saying don't greenlit artsy movies, whatever, whatever.
that's
I'm
what it's
saying
sounding
that
like.
I'm saying, and I've clearly said it, there's just too many. There's far too many. And like, okay, maybe it's niche and people like these things, but what I'm saying is they've been doing this since 2012. So they've been at this for 14 years.
And they're bigger
They
than they've ever
have
been.
and they have movies that work, and I think that they need to focus their direction on like, okay, why did this movie work so well? Let's find more movies like that. But we're dipping into too much and too many artsy movies with no story. And so like that's my main gripe. I get what you guys are saying. I'm on your side. I think that there needs to be fresh new movies. I think that there needs to be a lot of recognition on indie artists and all these up and coming people. I just don't think that everybody needs a platform. I don't think that every single movie needs to be greenlit just because it checks off the box of being original and weird. I think that they need to just focus on making good movies. And if you're going to make a sports biopic, make it good. I haven't seen Marty Supreme. Smashing Machine wasn't all that great. I wasn't a huge fan of Iron Claw. Like you're making these sports movies are based on based on real life movies, and you're not doing them justice. And the reason I say that is because there's far too many based on true story movies that are actually good, that actually hit home. Unbroken, Hacksaw Ridge, Hidden Figures, Selma, 42, Race. Um, I literally the list can go on and on and on. But the minute A24 touches a based on true story movie, it just feels like it
Ford
falls
v
short for
Ferrari
me.
was really good.
Ford v Ferrari, exactly.
Fire.
There's a lot
Fantastic
of
movie.
based on true story movies that perform well.
Right. But the
All I'm
problem is
saying
that,
is
yeah, but the
that
problem
may
is
not
with
be their
all
niche.
those, yeah, I get that. I get what you're saying. But the problem with everything you just said is that every single one of those movies, well, I shouldn't say every single one. almost every single one of those movies has multiple lead actors or directors or writers that the industry has already got confidence in. Those movies are written, directed, or acted by people that have been in the industry for decades. Right. So the thing is that they don't need an A24 to make their 42 or their Selma or their anything else, because they're a studio with $100 million budget goes, a story about Selma, directed by such and such, starring who and who. Let's do it. But the whole point is that A24 is like, hey, I want to do a story about a fake table tennis player, and we're going to start the movie off with a jizz shot. And you're just like, every studio is like, nah,
A
keep it rolling.
fake tennis player, dude?
You know, he's not a real character. He's not a real person. Marty
What
Supreme's
are you
not a real
talking about?
person.
Nah, dude.
Marty
Marty
Supreme is not a real
Supreme,
person.
he's real. No,
Um,
I'm just kidding.
or it's like when I listened to I was listening to Ben Affleck and Matt Damon talk recently on an interview. They did a long form interview where they talked about making Good Will Hunting, and they were so tired of every major studio shooting them down. They literally wrote in a blowjob scene to see who was reading their script, because every studio wasn't going to take a risk on Good Will Hunting. And that movie is phenomenal. And the reason why they wouldn't take a risk is because they didn't know Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They were like, who are you? You kids, we're not doing this. They needed one person that was recognizable to attach the movie so they could get it made. And it's one of the best films of that year. But if
I
A24
hear
was
what you're
around,
saying.
they would have been like, let's do it. They would
No,
have
I hear what
slapped
you're
that
saying.
green, they would have writ that check out, and they would have said, get out there, boys.
I hear what you're saying, and I feel like we keep dancing around saying similar things and then misinterpreting. I understand that indie artists deserve a chance. I understand, but it no longer becomes a risk when you're doing so many. Because if you're throwing all this money out and you're just like, here, you get some, you get some, you get some, you get some, you get some. Oh, there's a whole bunch of bad movies right here, but we have a couple good ones. It's no longer a risk because you're just kind of throwing darts at a wall and hoping that a few of them will land. That's my problem with A24 right now. Is yes, do I think indie artists deserve respect in the industry, and like some weird artsy niche movies should be made? Sure. Do I think that there's a lot of good stories that they could be coming out with? Sure. I'm not saying don't greenlit movies for people who are trying to make a name for themselves, but I'm also saying that it no longer becomes a risk when you're just chucking stuff at a wall hoping it'll land. Because again, you have 190 movies, and then you look and you go through 2025 and 2024. Look at how many movies came out versus how many succeeded. And because a lot of the ones that failed are just weird, or they're artsy, or it's just softcore porn. Because a lot of them will
Nice.
just throw in weird sex scenes, or they'll just show people's boob.
Nice.
For example, this isn't an A24 movie, but there was a movie with Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence, and it was played up to be this really artsy, vibrant movie, and it was weird, and it was a little gross, and it was basically for the first 10 minutes just nudity. So Ivy and I shut it off. So what I'm saying is, yes, I believe in risk. We live in a period right now where people think that nudity is risk, where people think that weird is risk. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that you could do a lot of risky things for the sake of telling a story. And I think that A24 has a tendency to greenlit things that are just weird for the sake of being weird, because eventually something's going to stick. That's my gripe with A24 movies right now. But I get what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. I do think that there should be representation for people who are like, "Hey, I'm trying to make a movie and I'm trying to do this, but I can't get the big studios to back me, and I don't want to make, you know, Matrix 5. I don't want to make, Iron Man 7. I don't want to do pre-existing IPs." I get that. But that's my main problem with A24. And I feel like I've talked too much about it, so I apologize.
No,
But I
you're
feel
fine.
strongly about that because I feel like there's a lot of good movies that could be coming out that aren't necessarily
I hear, I
on
hear,
the
eh,
viewfinder.
I hear everything you're saying, and I think it's funny you say that it's a misinterpretation. I totally understand what you're saying. I hear you. I'm not misinterpreting what you're saying. I promise. My problem is this: we've already got a billion other studios that will
Hmm.
do everything you're talking about. I'm just saying that this studio is willing to take it is willing. You're saying it's not a risk for them to greenlight things because they're like, hey, we get a couple that win and we get a lot that lose, but the couple that win keep funding the losses. I was like, that's the risk that they're risking, that they will have a couple of wins so they can keep funding and keep the model rolling. Now, it's up to you whether or not you think it's altruistic or if it's some other, like maybe there's some other, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Motive behind what they're doing.
Ulterior motive,
For
yeah.
me, I don't think there's an ulterior motive based off of just looking at their catalog. There can't be an ulterior motive. It literally just looks like this studio is trying to give people a chance. They come to the studio, they say, I got a movie. They enter it in a film, they shoot it, and then A24 goes to that and they say, let's see if this is good enough. Let's see if this is something we want to syndicate and send out. That's what happened with Talk to Me. Um, so I think that a studio like this is is awesome, especially since we don't really have a lot of other studios that with this name recognition doing this type of stuff. And just like what Maiko said, um, I'm not forced to go watch every A24 film because I watched one bad A24 film. I'm not gonna immediately like, I can't watch another. Now I will say this: when I see A24 on a film, it does invoke something, though. This is where I agree with you, Ryan, where I say, I see A24 and my brain goes, this could be anywhere from Talk to Me to Y2K.
Yeah.
So the way I kind of look at it in a weird way, and to some people this might sound bad, kind of look at it like those old $5 to $1 DVD bargain bins you would see on checkout as you walked out to Walmart, where you'd be walking out, and as you're leaving, you see, wait a minute, is that a triple feature DVD set where I can get Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights? And then in the middle, there's just the third weird film that they're like, we got to get rid of this. And they just kind of taped it to it. So it was like a random Steven Seagal film, and I go like, yeah, why not? I'll watch this. And you know, I like that. I'm come from a time period. I shouldn't say that. I'm making myself sound old. But we used to rent. We used to rent movies. We used to
Yeah,
go out
same.
to a Blockbuster, and I'm the guy that when Jurassic Park came out, there was another movie that came out around the same time called Carnosaur. Terrible movie. I love it. It's one of my favorites. I was the kid that would go down the aisle and I would look for the cheesy B-rate movies because I wanted to watch something cheesy and kind of stupid. And something I can say with most A24 films is at least I can watch it and tell that the people that made it cared about the material they were shooting and writing and filming. That's at the very least they knew. I feel like they made what they wanted to make.
Speaking of renting movies,
What'd you get?
I still got my
A
sticker on there. It's not
Hollywood
Blockbuster,
Video.
but yeah, it's a little older because they went out of business before Blockbuster. But
That's a certified relic right there, my friend.
dude, I'm telling you,
You know what? You should get.
my
You
prized
know what?
possessions.
I'm not even joking. Ryan, you should really think about getting those graded and put in those like plaques, like they grade cards in.
Honestly, I
Like,
should.
hold on.
I should.
Y'all can
While he's
continue
doing
talking.
that, yeah, while he's doing that, I don't mind A24.
I just
I'm
love
not trying to be. I'm not trying to be.
reluctance as he gets in it. I don't mind.
I think I'm overly passionate about A24 because I've seen so many bad movies back to back to back to back to back to back to back. So
They made
like,
good movies.
and then I get one, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I like this, but it's just too many back to backs where I'm like, this isn't good. And I'm looking at them all too. Smashing Machine. I can name more movies that I didn't like than I did,
Yeah, I could see that.
which kind of sucks because at one point, I think when I first saw A24, I can't remember what the first A24 movie was that I saw. It might have been Ex Machina. But then I would see it and I was like, oh, this is a good movie. And then I'd see another movie and I was like, oh, this is a pretty good movie. And then it just kind of started to go downhill after that. And then every time I see A24, I'm like, here we go again.
Well, to be fair, you can arguably say that movies like Ex Machina are the reasons why we get even actors like Oscar Isaacs. That was kind of like a movie that put him out on the map. Was
Well, that's
Ex
what I'm
Machina.
saying too with Midsummer. That's where you get Florence Pugh.
One of
You
those.
get a bunch of nice.
Fire.
See, honestly, I should start getting some stuff graded.
Yeah, this is mine
Notice.
from second grade.
Really?
Oh wow,
Yeah, this is one of my old cards. It's a 7, which is not too bad.
that's crazy. They were grading cards in the 70s. He was in
Fuck
second
you.
grade. Oh man, no, I'm just kidding.
I am the oldest one of the three of us, but I'm not that old.
That's true. Mike is the youngest. I thought
That's why I'm filled
No,
with so
you
much
are.
wisdom.
that's tough.
You got me by, I think, a couple of months, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And you know what's funny? You know what's funny to sidetrack? I think for the past, I want to say like 6 months, I've been telling people the wrong age because I genuinely believed that I was 28. And then I went and I saw a post for November 2025 that I did, and the caption said 27, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm only 27." But I've
Wait
been
till you
telling
hit
people they're like, "Oh, how old are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm 28." And I'm like, "Wait,
wait till you hit your 30s. You're just like, I don't know. I'm in my 30s.
yeah."
And then after that, it's just all done.
Ew.
Ugh. Oh, that's what that smell is. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's going to wrap it for today's episode of Three Beans on a Pod. I've got a date with some rope.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he's dying. He's like actually dying.
That's
Yep.
funny.
Dang,
no.
it's hard to laugh when you got asthma. I almost started dying.
Good. I mean, oh, terrible. Be careful out there.
Oh.
Well, I think next time
Roll
we get
this.
together, we're going to talk about. Do you want to tease what we're talking about, or you just want to call it here? And
Oh yeah, no, we're going to be talking about what we feel is going to be the death of the action star. I know that sounds a little dramatic, but we're kind of talking movies. To preface, we're going to kind of dive into where we think action may be going after we lose people like Jackie Chan, Tom Cruise,
Hmm.
and the people that do their own stunts for the sake of loving the art of what's it called? The art of what's it called? Stunts, because that's
okay.
ultimately what it is. Yes, they're acting, but they love stunts and stunting and doing all this stuff. So that's
we
what
are
we're
in
going
the
to kind
age. Yeah, we're in the age of massive CGI stunts and not really having to
It's
do
so
much of it.
sad.
Yeah, and with
It
it,
is.
we're leaving behind the era of practical stunts. Like, well, what's the point of doing? And it sucks because we lose these really cool car chase scenes, that some of the best ones from the early 2000s, the late 80s and 90s. So me and Ryan were talking about it before we started recording, and we were saying like, wow, we kind of are sunsetting right now on the action star time period. So, obviously we've been in the superhero age for such a long time. I kind of thought we might get an action hero resurgence, but I feel like we actually started eclipsing it to the point where I don't think it's ever coming back in a meaningful way, or at least not right now. But we'll talk
But
about it
even
more.
then, there's going to be a big hole when they stop doing their own stunts. And I'm not talking choreographed fights, and I'm not talking doing your own stunt driving. I'm talking about climbing the Burj Khalifa. I'm talking about strapping yourself to the side of an airplane. I'm talking about jumping
He's
down
right.
an apartment
He's
building
right.
using AC units, or jumping off the balcony of a mall and grabbing onto a banner or a flag.
Mhm.
Like, they're just never going to do things like that. I say never because there's no light at the end of the tunnel right now. But we're going to kind of talk about that. We're going to talk about some of their best stunts that we've seen, or what is going to look like after that.
Get
That'll be
ready
interesting.
for on the next episode for us to talk about some of the best Jackie Chan stunts we've ever seen in our life, because that's what I'm coming with. I've got at least 3 off the top of my head that I can, and
I
maybe
love
that'll
Jackie
be
Chan.
he's amazing.
Gosh.
Well, that'll be an editing project for us, Ryan, as we'll actually have to put the video footage of some of these stunts in, but we'll
Very true. And Tom
also
Cruise. We got to respect the man, all right?
I'm not
yeah,
sure
You
Tom
may not
Cruise.
like him as a person. You may not
No, I
like him
like
as
him.
an actor. But,
I like him
like,
as an actor.
the stunts are great.
I think we'll start the next episode talking about 2026 and what we're looking forward to, and then we'll lead into our topic, and we'll take it from there and keep it rolling. Because this actually
I think that'll
lasted
be
a
good.
lot longer than I thought we'd take. So got a little
That was
passionate about the
partially
A24.
me. I apologize. I think I went on like 2 just aggressive rants on why A24 is the best production house I've ever seen.
There you
That's
go.
right. 10 out of 10.
We-
See, we did it, everybody.
We need A24.
I mean, we don't need it.
I think,
But it's there.
I think
It's
we
there.
need them. I
And
think
here's
we
the
need them.
thing. You guys have heard the
Here we go.
arguments. Whatever you feel on A24, let us know in the comments. Obviously, nobody's going to feel as strongly as I do because I feel like that's just nobody feels that strongly about things. You may be in the middle with Micah. You may be in the middle with Jacob. But let us know how you're feeling. Do you like A24 movies? Do you like the direction they're going in? Are there movies that you're excited for? Pause. There's actually one that I'm excited for, even though they have a reputation of not making great stuff. The Backrooms, that one's coming out that I really feel like is going to be pretty cool because they got another YouTube artist to do this like liminal space thing. And every time I see those on like TikTok, I always get like intrigued. And so to see that there's a full movie coming out with this weird liminal space thing that people have deemed kind of creepy, I'm excited to see what happens because he's untainted of the whole A24 thing and he just makes these for fun on YouTube. And they just gave him a budget to make a full one. So I'm excited for that. But let us know in the comments how you're feeling about A24. Or if there's any production houses that you have on your radar that feel better. You know, Neon, I know they're doing some stuff that's pretty cool. I'd have to go out and see what the names are of the movies that I've seen. I know I've seen the logo. I just got to get a list of those movies. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us on this rant for A24. And we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.